So those three things are really important to keep track of. We'll talk about those a lot more throughout the presentation. So this is the process that you'll walk through when you open a job requisition. So the first thing that you see here as a hiring manager is one, the job requisition. That first step, HR business partner or ops specialist and manager. These are the ones who can open a job requisition. You'll also want to assign a primary recruiter when you open your job rec. That'll be somebody who will be able to review applicants, interview applicants, and help you make some decisions regarding that. Usually, the primary recruiter is the same thing as the hiring manager, which is the same thing as the person who opened the job, which is the same thing as the person they're going to be reporting to. There is a step in between 1 and 2 where after you've created that job requisition, it gets sent to me. I see all the job requisitions for student jobs and I review them, I edit them. If there are any problems, I'll reach out, talk with you about it, what you want, what you don't want. Make sure everything looks good, and then I will post the job. For student jobs, I've been doing 3 business days, and then I've been setting them to automatically close after those 3 business days. That's just because most student jobs get a lot of applicants in that time, and I don't want to just leave it open, making you go through hundreds of applications as students keep applying. And I'll send you an email after your job has been posted, letting you know if there's anything else that I need, and saying it's going to be closing after 3 days. If you want it open longer than that, reach out, or shorter than that. If in the first day you get 200 applicants, you're like, no more, we're good, I can close it before those 3 days as well. So once candidates apply, you'll see all the candidates that apply, you'll go through them. It'll come up as a task in your inbox. It'll say department review. You'll review them. If you want to interview them, you can go through that process to interview them. And when they're ready to hire, you can move them forward to the ready to hire stage, or you'll add additional job if they already have a student job on campus. And then finally, you'll set up their onboarding, and then they'll be off to the ops center to finish hiring. You're good. Through direct hire, it's a little bit more streamlined. You just go to your organization chart, you find the position you want to hire them into, you click the hire student button in the actions, and then you'll get a task to change their organization assignments. Basically, you'll just say what cost center they're in. It should pre-populate based on the position. You'll just make sure that everything looks right. And then you'll get another step that you'll say how much you want to pay them. So again, this auto-populates, but it's based on the lowest amount in their pay grade. So a lot of times you will need to edit some stuff here. And then finally, you'll set up their onboarding, similar to before. So that's the process through direct hire. Notice there's no place for background checks here. Remember that. And we'll sort of move forward. So I'll just go ahead and start walking through some of what these processes look like, what you'll see on your end. I'll share my screen and I'll pretend to be a manager hiring a student. And so I'm excited to show you. So we'll go ahead and share my screen. So you should be able to see my Workday screen. This is just a testing environment. I'm subbing in as Max Manager. And the first thing that I'm going to show you how to do is to create a job requisition. The easiest way to do this is here in the task box or the search bar. You can just click or type in create job requisition, or just create job rec. Go in with an article and a task. Be sure to click the task. Unless you have questions and want to read details about it, then you can read the article. One cool functionality is if, let's say you've been, hiring for 6 months and you've hired 10 different student custodians and it's all the same, you can go ahead and look at some of the past requisitions that you've had, and you can just copy from your job requisitions, which is nice. It'll auto-populate your supervisory organization, which is just meaning that they're going to be under you. One important thing is you can select for this should say for one existing position, because the other option is for multiple existing positions. If you just need one hire, you can click this button. But if you need, 10 different security workers, you can click multiple existing positions. So I'm going to click this one because I want to show you how it works. If you build a rec for one position, once you hire one person in that rec, it will automatically reject everybody else in the rec and it'll fill your rec. So if you accidentally open a rec for just one position, but you need more than one student hired, the easiest thing to do would probably be to go ahead and just reach out to me, I'll close the rec, and then I will walk you through opening up a rec with multiple openings. There are other things you can do, but that's probably the simplest. Worker type, it's going to be employee. Contingent worker is very rarely used, never for students, so to my knowledge. We'll just go ahead and do employee for multiple positions. It's going to pull up all of the positions that are listed under you in Workday. And so you can see these are all my positions. I have 37 people reporting to me, but several of them, like this student worker one unfilled, is not currently filled. It's just Workday saying, oh, well, he is supposed to have 37 people reporting to him, or he's entitled to that, even if, it looks like only, Emily, Seth, Sally, Stan, Willow, these 4 are currently filled with an actual worker. So I'm going to go ahead and select the ones that I want to fill. Sometimes this will give me errors because this is a testing environment that I've created job recs for before. And so if I pick one that I already have a job rec for, it might get mad. So I'm just going to guess and hopefully it'll work out. I'm going to do these 3 positions. The defaulting position, I'll just make sure I'll have, let's see, we'll do Seth as the defaulting position. Let's see if I can not see. Here we go. So basically what I'm saying is out of my 37 positions, Seth is quitting, so I'm filling his position, and I'm adding 2 more people to my team from unfilled spots. Let's see if it'll give me an error. Yeah, so this is just saying I already have a rec for that position. So I'll pick a different one. I'll do 750-167. Try this one. Okay. You might tell me this for a while. I apologize. I'll just go ahead. There we go. So what we have here is once I've gone through, selected all the positions that are going to be typed to the rec. I think it'll just be 2 because I took one off. We are going to add these recruiting details. So the reason I'm going to put, looks like it's the replacement for Kyle and Seth. So that's fine. I'll just go ahead and say these people resigned. Recruiting instruction, this will ask you where you want it posted. For student jobs, I will only post them internally. I'm not going to post student jobs externally. So it doesn't matter if you put post externally only, post internally and externally, or post internally only. I will only post them internally. If you put posting not required, that tells me that you have a student you want to do a direct hire for, but they need a background check or ecclesiastical endorsement. And so then I'll reach out and say, hey, I noticed that you don't want this role posted. Is that because you have somebody you want to hire? And you can say, yes, I want to hire Joe. He's returning from a mission. I'll say, okay, great. I'm going to post it just so that he can apply. As soon as he applies, I'll unpost it. So that's what those mean. A recruiting start date, always do today unless for some reason you're like, I want to do this now, but I don't actually want this role posted until the future. If you don't want to post it until the future, you can put a recruiting start date in the future, but then you might as well just create the rec in the future. So I would recommend always putting it today. Target hire date, that's also going to be, that's the date that you can hire them for. The only functionality this one offers is if you put this date in the future, you will not be able to hire somebody until that date. So if you, it's not an expected thing like, oh, I'm expecting to hire someone around, February 20th. If you put that and you find somebody tomorrow, you'll have to wait until February 20th to hire them. And this is something that I review and I will edit. I will chop this down to be today. So best practice is always to put today for the recruiting start date and the target hire date. Because if you don't, I will change it to be so unless I won't change recruiting start date without talking to you, but I will change target hire date. Target end date should always be left blank. That date closes the rec. It is not the date you want the posting to end. I do that. You do not do anything with job postings. This date will send an email to all your candidates saying, this job is done now, we're not hiring anymore. It will mark the rec as closed, leave it blank. This is also something that I review, and I will leave blank if I see you put a date there, because I don't want you to go through that. So next is your job positions. So this is the job posting title, and this also will pull through to Workday when you're eventually hired. So if you leave it as student worker 1, that's what they're going to show up as when they're hired. This is something that I will also change just because we want students to have a little bit more information when they're looking for jobs than a student worker. So we're going to change this to be student custodian. Job profile should always be student worker and then 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. I recommend not adding additional job profiles. The job profile is tied with a lot of the posting information. And if you have anything other than student here, it will not show up on the student job posting site. So leave this as one of the student worker positions. And then this job description summary is internal. This does not show up on the job posting. This is instructions for me. So this is where you could put, this is a job I want posted for 2 weeks. Or you could put, this is a job I'm hiring a return missionary for. I want to hire Joe into this rec. Do not post. This is instructions for the recruiter because I'm the only one who sees this box. These 2 boxes are the ones that students will see when the rec is posted. So that means that this is where your job description goes. This is where the pay goes. There's no other place in the job rec for you to put how much the position pays. So this is where you'd say, come join our custodian crew. Pay starts at $1 million an hour. You'll clean windows, pick up trash, etc. You know, just all the job details there. It doesn't really matter which box you put them in. Both of these jobs will populate. You can use one, you can use both, doesn't particularly matter. Worker stub type will always say student, time type's always going to be part-time. You can play with the primary location. It can say general campus, you can change it to be more specific. Scheduled weekly hours for student roles, as long as this number is under 20, that's okay. It should auto-populate to be 20. Sometimes it can be 40, so I'll check. That's something else that I review when I see it come through. And as long as it's 20 or under, that's fine. If you're only hiring for 10 hours, you can put that, or 15 or whatever you want, but don't go above 20. Skills, you can list skills that you want for student jobs. This isn't always the most helpful. Organizations, this is where you can edit some things. Usually it should auto-populate based on the student position, and you won't need to change anything here. Attachments, usually people don't attach things to job requisitions. But assign roles, this is an important field. This is where you can add people as the recruiter. So if you want to have people help you, if you want to have multiple, you can add multiple primary recruiters. So you can, you know, have, let's see, we'll have these 3 people listed as primary recruiters. You can assign people as guest recruiters as well. We always need to have at least one primary recruiter on every job rec. And usually it's the hiring manager. So I'm going to go ahead and do Max Manager as the primary recruiter because that's me and I'm just going to be hiring it, not. It's just a student custodial position. I don't need a whole team of panelists reviewing. And so then you're good. We're going to look at the summary. We're going to go through everything, make sure that it looks all correct. And we're good. Let's go ahead and submit. Okay, I've submitted. So as soon as I've submitted, now that's going to come to the student recruiter, who in real life, that's going to be me. So Max's job is going to be sent to Christian Brown, and I'm going to review it, make sure he did it correctly. I will look at it, how it's formatted, play with any like weird things to make sure it doesn't look ugly. Reach out to Max if I have any questions. I'll post the job and then I'll send him an email saying your job has been posted. It's set to expire in 3 days. You forgot to put how much this role is paid. Will you send me that information? I'll get it updated. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. So that's all good. Max has had some students apply to his job. He's going to get these tasks in his inbox, his My Tasks button. You can click right here. When students apply, it's going to come up with this department review task. For Wanda student. It looks like Wanda applied. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at her profile. If you are wanting to look at your job recs, what you can do is you can click here on the very left and see your job requisitions. So Max has, you know, he has quite a few job recs that he's opened up. I'm not 100% sure. I think I said mine was student custodian, so I'm guessing this is the one that I just opened up. I can look at the candidates here. I can look at the details here. Yeah, it's today. I can look at who's applied. Nobody's actually applied because I just posted it, so we're just pretending. But that's one way to see the students who've applied. You can also look in your inbox, which is usually the way to go, since you'll get a notification. It'll pull up the student's information right here. So we can see, first of all, their resume. This is a big one. You can click this little paper clip. We can review. If there's multiple pages, you can toggle through here at the top. Mickey M. House. Looks like we have some good information. A lot of times, student information will pull through from an external site that student information is stored on. And so you'll be able to see emails and things. A lot of the time it doesn't. So the best way to find their contact information is here on their resume. Not sure why that is happening, but that's how it is. So you can see, a lot of different things, with that resume being the big one. And then right here at the bottom, this is where you can do something about it. So I really did not like Wanda Student Workers. I'm going to decline her. And you can select one of these options. I would always recommend selecting this auto email. If they do have an email attached to their profile, this will send them a notification, which is usually best practice. Not selected no email is usually the better option if it's somebody that you're reaching out to another way. Maybe Wanda is somebody that I interviewed. I want to do something a little bit more personal. So I'm going to call her up and say, I'm so sorry you didn't get the job. And then I don't need to rub it in her face. I'm not going to send her an email saying the same thing. So I'm going to select no email. But we want every student to know. So if you're not going to be reaching out another way, select this auto email, decline them. But for the sake of the presentation, now I'm going to say, oh, Wanda student, I loved her application. Let's move her forward. And we can move forward to different statuses. These will sometimes look different depending on the situation. If you move them to the interview stage, you'll get an interview task in your inbox where you basically set up an interview with the student. One thing to note is if you use this interview option, nothing is sent to the student through Workday until you've actually scheduled the interview. The only thing they'll say is, you have an interview scheduled with you for this job. And then they can search in their Workday to find out the details. So to actually do the scheduling and the conversation, reach out to them externally through email or phone to set up the interview and then move them to the interview status and put the information for the interview as it comes up, and that will, trigger that for Workday. You can also move to background check if you are working in a rec that requires a background check, and that's why you want to you can move them forward there, or you can move them for ready to hire, which is what we'll do here. And move them ready for hire. Once you move somebody to ready to hire, the other applicants in the rec are automatically rejected. So if you do have other candidates that you want to decline first with a phone call or things like that, make sure that you decline them in Workday first before moving somebody to the ready to hire stage, because that will close the rec, it will auto reject the other candidates and send them an email. It's also something to know. That's why if you have a rec that you want to hire multiple people for, but you forgot to put multiple positions on the rec, that's why you should have started over the rec creation process, because it will decline everyone else that you're hoping to hire. So the next step is going to be this ready to hire. And so I have this start additional job for SAMI student. It will say different things depending on whether the student has a different on-campus job. If they are not currently employed, they're just a student, they don't have any student jobs, it will say hire or ready to hire. If they already have one, then it'll say start additional job, just because they've already been hired by the university. We're just adding another job. So this is that ready to hire stage. It's just called start additional job because saying the student's already applied. It will ask for information. We're going to do positions. It will let you pick positions with a job requisition. That's what we're going to do. We're going to pretend it's this, I don't know, this one. Actually, no, not a staff one. I think not a staff. Let's see. I don't think this is fine. Here, here we go. This is the one I'm supposed to use. For ward student worker. So it's populated. We're adding an additional job. Position as Workday student trainer. Employee type, student worker 1, part-time, general campus. I can play with this if I want it to be more specific. I don't have to. One thing that I'm noticing is this says scheduled weekly hours 40, which is incorrect. So if you see that, you may want to reach out to your HR business partner to say, hey, I need this changed. Because at this point, he's been moved to ready to hire. We would have to move him back in order for me, Christian Brown, to be able to edit that on the job requisition, which I could do. So you could reach out to me as well. So everything looks good. We can add some of this optional information like the first day of work. Cost center, we can make sure he's being hired into the correct cost center. Hiring office should just be student hiring office. Everything looks good. We're going to go ahead and submit. One alert. Let's see what's my alert. Oh, yeah, it just means that we've done this before. It looks like other people are trying to hire him too because it's me. So that's fine though. It will still let me push through. There we go. And we're going to get this success event submitted. This is letting me know that the next step is also with me. I'm going to go ahead and open it and see what it wants me to do. And it wants me to propose compensation. So this is where I go ahead and say how much this is Ward student actually is going to be paid. For students, it's going to be hourly. So you want to move down to this box. Don't get tricked by trying to do total base pay or anything like this. We're going to move down to the hourly. It defaults with the lowest amount listed on the position's pay grade. That's tied to the whatever position we're hiring Ward into. So if he was getting paid 12, that'd be great. We can also edit it. It will not let you put anything that's not in the pay grade tied to the student worker. So if, I'm trying to hire a student, computer technician with tons of experience at, $19 an hour, and I used a student worker 1 position to open the rec, I might have to have some conversations with my HR business partner to get a different position open to hire the student into, because it might give me an error. So usually that's not a problem. Usually you can be pretty aware of what grade they're being hired into. The grades are wide enough that shouldn't give you too much of an error, but it will, look for that. You can ignore most of these other boxes. Students don't usually have much going on with their pay other than that. And then we can submit. It's success. Success isn't a verb. It was completed successfully. It's now with the BYU hiring office, so it kicked it off to the operations center. They'll do their next step, and then they'll send it back to me. And they'll give me this onboarding setup for hire for Willow student worker. This is a different student that, we built in because we wanted to show you the whole process. So we now need to set up the onboarding for Willow. This is fairly simple. There's not many choices here. We can edit this default message to say something more fancy if we want to, or we can leave it as is. And then we'll select people for them to meet and helpful contacts. And that's all that we have to do for the onboarding setup. These are going to be people that we think would be important for them to meet with during their first few weeks. There's a lot. You can add some, you can take some away. You can also check to notify. This will send an email to all of these people that you've listed. You can type in the subject and the message. It's not a great idea if you're doing a lot of people, or if you're doing people who get a lot of notifications and they're busy. You can use it sort of at your discretion whether or not you think it would be a good idea to send a notification to all of these people saying, hey, I want my student to meet with you. Same thing for helpful contacts. You can do the same notify button, use the same discretion. These are just people that will show up on the student's Workday profile as being possible help resources for them. And then you can submit. Once you submit this task, then it goes to back to the HR Operations Center to get their I-9 set up and initiated. So it's important that you complete that onboarding step because that's what lets the Operations Center know, okay, it's hiring time. We're going to get this student's I-9 done because students can't work until their I-9s are completed. And once then the HR Operations Center has done everything on their end and the I-9 is completed, I can know that my student is ready to start working by looking at my org chart. If I go to my Teams button right there on my profile, I just went to my profile, clicked Teams, which had the picture of this branching section. I will look and I will say, oh, I know that Stan's ready to start working because he's on my org chart. If he is not ready yet because he hasn't completed his I-9, he will not be showing up. So I don't actually see Willow. Oh, I do, but we'll pretend I don't because she hasn't completed her I-9 because I just sent her through, but I think this is just we're testing. So, but I guess this means if I was looking at this a week in the future, I mean, she is ready to start. I'm like, great, I submitted Willow's onboarding. She's ready. I guess she's completed her I-9. One thing to note is if the student already is working on campus and they don't need to complete an I-9, you may or may not get that onboarding step. Sometimes we've had people not receive it, and that's just because they're already hired on as a student worker, and so they don't necessarily need to be onboarded. They're already employed and have met the legal requirements. So it just sort of depends. So maybe that's how it is with Willow. She already has a different on-campus job, so as soon as I send her through, she's ready to go. And that is the hiring process here in Workday. Those are the big ones. The last thing that I want to walk through is direct hire. Direct hire is also done through this org chart. Easiest way to do a direct hire is to find an open position on your org chart. We can't do it here because it's testing, and so it's not, the functionality wasn't built into this testing environment, but we have it in our Workday that we're using. So what we would do is we would just go and we'll just go ahead and proxy would just go in and we'll pretend that we'll pretend Sam. It will show this picture, and instead of a student name, it will say student worker 3, and it'll have unfilled next to it. And so we'll know that this is an available position I can direct hire someone into. And you can click these 3 dots. And it will pull up your actions. One of these actions will say hire. It doesn't say that here because the position is filled. So we can say, oh, hire student worker, and then it'll walk you through those same steps that we just went through to propose their organization, propose their compensation, and then do their onboarding. But it's really simple. You just go here, these three dots, hire student. Unfortunately, I don't have a way to really show that. And remember, don't do direct hire if they need background checks or ecclesiastical endorsements. If you have any other questions, or if there's something you'd like to see more with the direct hire process, you can ask that. That's the last thing that I wanted to present